Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I have with me comic creator Tom Hutchison. So welcome back to the show again.
Yeah, how many is this now?
It's at least 6 or 7, at least.
You don't know what it is?
I
You don't have a
have.
tally board. You should have a tally board behind you. You got that wall. You should have everybody's name and just start putting check marks.
I'll just put like really, really cool stickers.
Like so, I get gold stars because I'm in the lead. So until someone else is in the lead, I get gold stars.
Well, I'm gonna definitely install that for sure in my new studio. Everybody,
That's
eventually. But that's for maybe 6 months down the road. In fact, maybe I'll just invite you to put all your stars up.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about something else beyond gold stars, and that is you got GOTH Day going on 2023, being funded on Kickstarter, and I like GOTH Day. As you can tell, I am dressed for the occasion.
Are you?
But what is GOTH Day for those who do not know about it, heard about it, not heard about it, everything in between? Because it's really a brilliant concept what you've done.
Well, it came about. So first of all, GOTH Day is a real thing. So May 22nd, real thing. Like there's Batman Day and all these kinds of crazy days in the calendar. So GOTH Day is a real thing. May 22nd is World GOTH Day. So back in 2020, it was our 10-year anniversary for Big Dog Inc. And I wanted to do something just kind of unique and outside the box, like everybody does all these days. Star Wars Day, and everybody does all these covers for whatever. I'm like, yeah, everybody does those things. So what could I do that no one else is doing? And I stumbled across GOTH Day. I was like, oh, that's super cool. So the idea was to just sort of gothify a handful of our characters and do some special covers and just celebrate GOTH Day. And that's what we did. Within that, we took our superhero character Critter and modified her into her goth version that got named Catnip. And so when the covers came out, it was Critter and Ursa Minor and Scheherazade and Penny for Your Soul, and there might have been another one. Oh, Legend of Oz. When the books came out, they were just covers, but people really liked what we were doing, and they were like, "Oh, this is really cool!" And people really kind of dug on Catnip. And they immediately were asking, like, are you going to do this next year too? And I was like, well, if I do this next year, I don't want to just like make covers and stick them on books again. Like that feels cheap to me. There's a limit to how many times you can really do that. And so in my brain, I was like, but what if we actually took the time to build a world for all of these characters to exist together in? Because in the Big Dog Inc. universe, like, Critter doesn't hang out with Naomi, doesn't hang out with Scheherazade, doesn't hang out with Dorothy Gale. These are all pocket, stories. But in this case, we can take all of these characters from their natural habitats and sort of jam them together and, put them in this sort of dark goth universe. And the first story was called Let There Be Darkness. And it's based on basically like the Bible, like let there be light, and and there was light. So this story basically asks the question, what if instead of let there be light, it was let there be darkness? And so we sort of created this parallel world where everything went dark-ish, and then we get to explore the world with all these different characters. So that was sort of the origin of the whole thing. And this is now our third issue of the actual like world building portion of GOTH Day now.
Yeah, let's actually dive a little bit into that, because putting, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, of having a variant and then reissuing, a book with a new variant. Obviously the big two, big three do it, other creators do it. But after a while, you can only do that trick so many times.
Yeah, it just feels a little wonky to me.
And so what is that like to then really build out this world and also take characters that you've developed and then create a play space for them to be in that I don't think is Big Dog Inc. canon, where I don't think what's happening in Goth Day is going to affect the Legend of Oz, but it's nice to see how Dorothy interacts with another character like Critter
Yeah,
and
it's
playing around with that and having a good time, because that's kind of fun sometimes to
sure.
do a non-canon story.
Yeah, it was cool to sort of break it out and sort of modify these characters to a degree, but also maintain them to some element to where, like, Naomi is still Naomi in some context. Gail is still Dorothy Gale in some context, but with this goth modification. So, um, sort of like adapting the Wizard of Oz into a Western, which is what I do. You kind of have to, you take the characters, you put them in a different location, but you still want them to be sort of at their core, who they were when they started. So same thing here. We're taking all these characters from their different worlds and dropping them into this goth world. But we want them to be somewhat recognizable as who they are still, while getting the modification. So it's fun to tinker around with it and build a larger world for essentially just a variant versions of these characters. So it was fun. It's interesting, and then each one is a little bit different. So there is a little bit of overarching narrative to all three issues, but they are all very easy to just kind of come in and read that story, first one, second one, third one. They're very self-contained, but when you do read them all together, there is sort of an overarching narrative, even though the character bases switch up through each of the issues.
Yeah, and what I like about this is that obviously it's I equate this almost like Earth 2 in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
in a way, it is like that. Yes.
And what I think is cool about it, and I would like to actually see this from more creators, to be very honest, is that I would imagine it's a lot of fun for you to say, cool, I don't have to, keep Dorothy the same. You have to keep certain elements, but what happens in this world doesn't affect the main story. And I feel like you can test ideas. And you could also provide different variations, as you were saying, and things of that nature. And I think it kind of adds a cool interpretation to it. And I feel like it also expands what could be done with Big Dog Inc., to be very honest.
It
And
just
so,
it just depends on how far you want to take things, because you don't want to do. And this is one of the things that I hate with Marvel and with DC, with their variations and all their alternate universes and so on. As soon as those things don't matter, like you can just be like in Doctor Strange, right? It's like, oh my God, the Illuminati, and here's Fantastic Four and Reed Richards. Oh, he's dead. Like, when those things don't matter, the universe you've created doesn't matter. So even if people like it, you've now automatically told us that none of this actually matters, because we're just killing dudes off left and right. And it's like, oh, we're just going to kill this guy now. It's like, okay, there's no grounding to it. So I feel like anytime you do alternate universe, parallel dimension types of things, you need to ground it somehow. And I will tell you that Gotha is very grounded in what we do with Big Dog Inc. So this is not just a parallel universe where we're just going to run around willy-nilly and, kill off people and make things irrelevant. It's used as it's a narrative that is, I think, is an interesting narrative. Like I said, each one is individual, but there is an arching narrative through all of it, and that will continue through issue 5 as well, which will probably be our last issue. We're probably only going to do 5 issues of this, but within the larger scope of Big Dog Inc., there are elements that are happening in the prime Big Dog Inc. worlds, whatever, that will absolutely have effect on Goth Day, or Goth World, I should say. And a lot of that will come through the Critter story that we're doing. And like we said, Critter or Catnip is the parallel version of Critter. And we already know in the Critter story that there are parallel critters. There's the vampire critter, the steampunk critter. That's already happened. Those are things that happen. We don't have like a steampunk day comic book, but there are different versions of Critter already, and Catnip is one of them. So when you start to read all of these extraneous things, and then you read the Goth Day, and some of those threads start to tie up together, and make things a little more coherent in other directions. So there's definitely more than meets the eye that is happening with Goth Day.
So to even go into this, because obviously I don't know all that much about Critter. I know a lot about Dorothy. I'm going to be getting up to speed on Penny for Your Soul soon once I get that book, and I'm
Mhm.
excited to read it. Obviously, that Garvey is going to be a sweet, sweet book.
Yep.
You convinced me to spend money that I didn't have, so thank you. No, I did have the money, guys. But I still blame you. I still blame you. But I'll probably thank you once I see the book. So
Yes,
it's
you
all
will.
right.
Yes, you will.
I mean, it's a beautiful book. If
Mhm.
you, I think most of them are sold out. There might be a few left over at a con.
Yeah, I don't have a count yet, but if we have any left, it'll be maybe 20, 15, 20. Yeah.
But to go into this and go even further, it's kind of nice, I would imagine, at least for me in my experiences, when gears start linking up.
Mhm.
And when one gear is sort of seems a little strange, and then 3 or 4, 5 issues or 3, 4 years later, you're like, oh, I get it. And what is that like? And I'm not saying it's a direct connection, but it's kind of nice when you get the whole gear chain moving in one
Dude,
way.
I have been waiting on this for years because Critter has always gone to this point. And the arc that we're doing next year, when Critter comes back on Kickstarter in January, we're going to finish volume 6. That arc really puts everything that we're doing into context of everything you've seen in Critter and some of the stuff that's branched out. And when you get to the end of Critter Volume 6, which will be issue 25 when we're all done, uh, readers will have a very, very clear vision of what all these worlds are, why they exist, how they exist, and what the implications of them are. And I can't, I don't want to go too far into it because I don't want to spoil it, but literally everything that you're going to see in this next arc was planned when I started writing Critter 13 years ago. So it's been a long time, and Critter's been hiatus now for a few years because we had so many books getting their 10-year anniversary. So Critter just kind of got pushed back. But I was like, dude, it is time. I am not waiting anymore. It is time for this Critterverse to happen the way that I want it to happen. And there's no better story arc to do it with than this, than right where we are. And then that, when we get to that issue 25, that's going to really change a lot of stuff as we push forward to 2025, which will be our 15-year anniversary. And then into 2026, which we're already planning 2026 as well.
Yeah, let's actually touch upon that a little bit, and then we're going to swing back into Goth Day because
Sure.
obviously the Critter action figure dropped as well.
Soon, very soon, like
I meant the
painfully
Kickstarter
soon.
account,
Oh, the
but
Kickstarter, yeah, but we're really painfully close to those things being in my hand, and then out to everybody. So yeah.
and so what is that like too? Because now we're going from, if we're gonna have this big Critter push, it's connected to Goth Day. There's a reason why, and then you now have an action figure. I mean, the next stop it's a television show, but we might be 3, 4 years out from there. But I'm just planting the seeds here,
Yeah,
everybody.
no, that's fine with
Um,
me. Amazon did Invincible, they can do Critter next. That's fine.
But what is that like to have that also in play? Because at this point now, I feel like Critter, out of everything with Big Dog Inc., is sort of, I think, the most tangible. Because when you
Yeah.
have an action figure and you have a lot of issues, and obviously everything is sort of connected to Critter to some way or another, it's now legit. And it sounds weird, not saying it wasn't legit before, but the further you get invested, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's Critter is poised to really be sort of the arrow for Big Dog Inc. now, for the next couple of years. She's going to get
Good way to put it might be the flagship.
I mean, only in the context that we're going to focus on her right now. Like when we did Oz was our focus, so it became sort of what Big Dog Inc. was. When we did Oz, we did Ursa Minor. We had these 10-year anniversary things that we kind of focused on. So we've been shifting for a while. Every year kind of gets a new sort of focus. But Critter's going to get this focus. But so multiple things are going to happen. One, The figure is going to come out, soon. Next 3-4 months we'll have them in hand and get them out, so we'll have those towards the last quarter of the year. We'll have those available. Critter comes back on Kickstarter in January. Critter gets launched by Antarctic Press in January. They're going to reprint the series from issue 1 through issue 25 starting in January. So there's a whole lot of stuff, and then of course, like we talked about, the story arc that we're getting is the key piece of the puzzle that we've been putting together for 5 previous volumes. So there's a lot going on with Critter. And she connects because she exists in the Penny for Your Soul world. We've talked about the variations of Critter, including catnip. So these parallel dimensions connect to Critter. So there is a lot going on with her, and she is going to get a lot of airtime over the next year plus. And that's super exciting because that's the book that I started with. When I did comics, I was like, I don't know how to do this, but I think I understand superheroes. And so I started writing a script about superheroes because that was just what I understood from a genre standpoint. And to finally be able to get back to her and really put time into it and get to this arc and then push that arc, forward, like, oh my God, I'm so ready to do this. It's and it feels good because it's like, we've done Penny for Your Soul, and then we did Oz, and then we did Ursa Minor. We've done all these genres, and it's like, God damn, I want to get back to my superhero universe because this is what I started. This was the whole point of what I wanted to do back in 20, whenever I started doing this. So I'm very, very ready for Critter to be around heavy duty over the next few years.
And let me even go further into this too. I mean, and I don't know how you feel, but obviously I'm in business and I buy and sell comics, and I feel finally for the first time I'm ready to go through a massive expansion. And so I don't know how you feel about where you are with Big Dog Inc. and Critter, but do you feel that you're now ready to go and take this to the next level and sort of take Critter out into fifth gear, for lack of a better word? Because it's a weird question to ask a little bit, but sometimes I feel creators are not ready to really take on, a massive focus. They think they are,
Yeah.
but it's not just creativeness. It's also the infrastructure. It's understanding how certain things operate, understanding the business side, poising it, with the
Right.
Antarctic Press, the action figure, having the actual content. All that stuff is all the back end. And I feel like creators sometimes don't get that. And I don't know if you feel like you're ready, or if it all just happened and it took, a year, 2 years, 3 years to get to that point to position it.
Yeah, it in a way it did kind of all just happen. But Critter wasn't put on the back burner because I wasn't ready. Critter was put on the back burner just because we wanted to celebrate the other books that were having large anniversaries. That was really it. We wanted to give those books their focus because 10 years of the existence of a book is a big deal. So we wanted to kind of focus on that. But as that was happening, I was kind of in the background figuring out Critter, like, what do I do? How do I bring this back? What's the plan? And then as that plan was happening for me, that's where, all of a sudden, well, okay, the toy, let's figure out when that's going to hit. Okay, Antarctic Press wants to do this. Okay. We have an amazing art team for Critter returning next year. Omar and Hedwin Zaldivar are doing the book. Holy crap, it's going to look amazing. So all of these little things just started, like we talked about the gears, all the gears just started to fit. And it was like, God damn, I feel like this is really happening purposefully. Whether it's the universe telling me it's time to go, or whether it's just, I took my time and waited for all of these little things to kind of thread. Either way, I think we're going to be very, very ready to go. We're going to have some great artists on the book as well. I've been talking with a whole bunch of people, large names as well, to get involved in the book throughout the year. So we're going to have a great book. We're going to have great artists. We're going to, it's all just coming to this point. And in addition to all of that, we're on this particular story arc that is like the crux of everything we've done for 13 years. So it's like, fuck, I mean, it's time to go, man. It's time to go and make this happen.
No, I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for my action figure toys. Not gonna lie.
Dude, I can't even tell you. I'm freaking out. Like it's getting so close. I cannot like tell. I mean, like everybody, there's the backers and stuff. They're like, dude, when they're, I'm like, dude, I'm the same way. I'm sitting here waiting for information as soon as the same way you are. And as soon as I get information, I pass it to you. But I am as eager to have one of these things in my hand as everybody else. So soon. It's so close, guys. It's so close.
And then obviously I'm not going to press too far into Critter because you got a lot of stuff going on, and I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. But obviously it does connect into Goth Day. But I do want to talk a little bit about Goth Day 2023 because we're getting to deal with Rookie and Antoinette,
Hmm?
and obviously that's a very interesting story between these two because they sort of foil each other a little bit, and they're opposites, and it's from both I think their
Well,
angles.
they're polar opposite characters. And
I'm being
that's
generous. I'm being
That's
very
yeah.
generous.
I mean, that's part of the fun of it, though, right? Is the mashup? Like, how do you do a mashup that makes sense? I found a way to do it. I think it's going to be cool. How when these two finally sort of get face to face, I think it'll be a cool moment. And we have sort of a unique element that goes with it, but um, the story itself is essentially like the narrative flow. The through line is basically what does creation look like? Starting with again, like we did, let there be light, let there be darkness. Creation. The beginning of creation was God created man in His own image, right? So immediately, the first thing fucking created was already a derivative of something that already existed. You know what I mean? So what does that really mean to create? What does it mean to all that kind of stuff? So it's a really interesting through line for the story while Antoinette and Rookie are kind of doing their thing and then end up meeting together. What does that create within this goth world, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and it's gonna be fun. I mean, it's gonna
I
be
hope
fun.
so. I mean, that's the whole point, right? It's like and with Goth Day, I'm never going to be the guy that tells you that I'm particularly literary, right? I don't read books, and I'm not. I got a D in English. I don't know how I'm writing comics for a living because I got D's in English. But Goth Day, I purposefully pushed myself out of my normal sort of methodology for writing comics and dialogue and narration and so on, because I wanted it to have a very different feel from everything else that I did. And from all the people that are reading it, I get the sense that they see it too, they feel it, and they appreciate it, which is the best part is that they appreciate it. Um, I did an interview with Lori Calcaterra, and which was great because we were doing deep dive into the story and the narration, and she was going into all kinds of stuff. She was like, "Oh, this is such a great, panel or word balloon, great narration piece right here." And I was like, "Dude, this is great! Like, it's really cool to see people get like really deep into it because sometimes as a writer, you don't really know what they're seeing. They could just be seeing the top level of everything, or they could be really reading it and really feeling like how these words associate with the images and that's when it's working at its best with comics. So Gotha is a very different method of storytelling for me, and I enjoy it. It's difficult sometimes, but I enjoy it, and it's a good thing to do like once a year, just to kind of flex the writer muscles and be like, okay, how do I
Yeah.
sound like Shakespeare this for a month to write this script.
So,
But
let's actually dive into that because I think it is very important if you're a creator to experiment with different concepts and different ideas.
Sure,
And as a podcaster, there's a reason why I do people in comics, I do cosplayers, I do wrestlers, I do voice actors, and I like to mix it up because it's different. It keeps me on my toes. And all four of those areas are different. They're similar in certain ways, but different in others.
yep,
And I think it is important because I think, and I've seen this, and I'm sure you've seen this, where creators get stale. If
sure,
you're not doing something new, you're not trying to rewrite something, or you're in the genre of horror, after a while, I think you're going to get stale. But if you write a comedy and you go back to horror, hopefully your work's going to get better, and hopefully you're going to be
Yeah.
refreshed, and hopefully you're going to find maybe a new way how to do something.
Yeah.
But for you, I would imagine that you're getting to experiment with characters, you're getting to experiment with also a new style genre, and it's also a bit of a challenge, which I would imagine when you go back to doing something like Oz or Critter or Penny for Your Soul or anything, coming off a Goth Day, you're like, oh, I now can maybe do it this way or that way, and you could rework something and make it
Sure.
better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Anytime you're moving in and out of genre, you can always drag things with you. If you're doing a whole bunch of horror stuff and then you dive out and you go do a Western for, 6 issues, there's different storytelling needs for both of those. But when you come back to horror, sometimes you can take what you learned in this other genre and, kind of spruce up where you are in the horror realm or whatever. So yeah, absolutely. I will always try and give every book that I have sort of its own voice, like its own sound and tone and texture. And so Goth Day will always stand out from all the other books that I do. But when you are when you are, like I said, when you're flexing your writing muscles and you're doing something like Goth Day, and then you're like jumping back into like superheroes and Critter, it can definitely have an effect. But you have to be careful not to try and be like, okay, now Critter is going to elevate into like this goth sort of style and realm. It is what it is, and it needs to be what it is. But you can still bring stuff that you did on Goth Day, particularly when you're working with really cool artists that understand how to really lay out pages and stuff. Like with CB Zane on the first issue, one of the things that I told him was I want to layer musical notes throughout the pages, and even in some cases use musical notes as the panel itself. So there's things like that you can then drag back and be like, okay, so that's what we did over here. How can I, sort of translate some of that into a superhero Critter world if I wanted to do something where panels were shaped with cat ears or whatever. Like there's ways that you can kind of shift back and forth. But yeah.
And then the other side of this is also fascinating, where me, because now I'm a backer, is on this journey with you. And what is that like too, that people are back in this project and allowing you to sort of have this experimentation and ride with you on this journey to some degree and making it happen? Because it's kind of cool when somebody says, I get you're doing something very different than what we're accustomed to with Big Dog Inc. And we're with you on this ride. And this is the third time we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you must have done it right at least 2 times before.
Right.
So what is that like? Because that's also the other side that I don't know if people really recognize either, is people are riding with you on this journey.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, everything we do, even without Kickstarter, they're still doing it, right? Even if I was just releasing books to comic book stores, they still have to buy the book at the comic book store. So we've had, 13 years now of people supporting the books that we do, no matter what book it is. And so that's really, really exciting. And it doesn't matter when we put out a new book, people are like, oh, there's a new one. Okay, let's check out this new thing. And then they get excited when the old ones come back. Oh my God, Oz is back. That's great. Let's get back onto Oz. So, 13 years of doing comics. And I think I did a count. It was like 13 years and 14 titles, 14 different titles, not including like all of our weird spin-offs, like Joan of Arc is part of the Penny for Your Soul universe, things like that. So, but like 14 distinct individual titles. That's pretty crazy for a small independent nobody who's doing this by himself for the last half of my existence in comics with Kickstarter and shipping direct to customers and so on. So it's a lot.
So
But
let's actually dive into that, because this is one of the biggest things. And we were speaking about something off air that I don't want to get into, but I think the word that sums it up is trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I think trust is a really big thing right now in comics.
Mm-hmm.
in which that there are certain people I trust. I'll drop a really good name. Hopefully you'll agree. Pat Shand.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
trust Pat will deliver.
Yep.
I think you would agree
Yep.
with me on that. There's other people that I trust will deliver. Brian Polito will deliver. There's other people, and we're not going to mention names, that I do not think are going to deliver their book. And I think you know two of them off the top of your head, and we don't have to mention who they are. But what is that like? Because I think that's why people have stuck with you. You know, I know I'm getting my books from you.
Sure.
I know I'm getting my Critter action figure. I know I'm getting, you know, my Merciful Hope TikTok variants eventually. I know I'm getting my Penny for Your Soul book by Keith Garvey, that nice, beautiful cover. Whether it takes an extra month, 2 or 3 months, I know I'm getting it.
Yep.
But what is that like? Because I think that's a massive problem in comics right now. And
yeah, and with the advent of crowdfunding, it's more difficult because we have to be, you know, we get, let's say we get 600 backers, right? That's 600 freaking packages we got to send out now too. So it's a tricky thing to learn, is the infrastructure of not just making the campaign and the books, but then the back end of it, getting it all shipped out in time as best time as you possibly can. Because a lot of these people, I mean, like I do it literally, it's all myself. I build the campaigns, I write the books, I do all the art. I mean, I do everything. And when the shipping comes around, I do the shipping. So it's literally all on me. Some people have, you know, wives and kids and stuff that they can pawn some of this off on, which is great, but I don't have that. Some people have actual teams that they
pay. You mean
yeah, right.
Pay justly, right?
Some people have actual teams that they hire to do this stuff, which is good. I mean, that can speed up the process, but you know, that can cost a couple $1,000s to hire somebody to ship out this stuff for you. So eventually we will get to that point where it's like, okay, I need a team to help me do this. But right now it's all me. So, you know, we're not perfect, but we have never not fulfilled a book. We have always fulfilled a book. Everything that we've ever put on Kickstarter has fulfilled. Even if we fall behind for whatever reasons, we get it done. We all, you know, we'll go through a catch up phase where it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's like bang, bang, bang. You got 2 or 3 books. Whoosh, there you go. We're caught up. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody, and there's definitely people that aren't happy that we fall behind, and that's, I completely understand. But most people are like, Tom gets this done. I mean, yeah, it might take an extra month, but Tom gets it done. I'm happy to wait for my book.
So my issue is that I don't think a month is late. I think a month is you're behind. I think
sure.
2 months you're more behind. I think 3 months you're starting to get late.
Sure.
And then I think by month 4, unless you have a damn good reason, you're late. I'm sorry to say it, but you're late because you've had time where you have 2 weeks after the campaign ends and then the clock starts ticking.
Yeah.
Okay. From when it's supposed to be delivered. So whenever your date is plus 2 weeks is when my book should be in my hands. I'm sorry. I know how to make the trains run on time. You may not like the way I rule Italy, but that's not the point here. The trains will run on time, but I think it's a big problem. And one of the things is that I'm backing out of Kickstarter probably in the next 2 or 3 months because there's so many things that I'm owed that are late now. Sure. And I'm getting frustrated, not because, you know, I don't think I'm not going to get it, but I want to read it. And I don't even have the digitals. And that's my problem is that if your book is done and you're having a printing issue, send me the digitals.
Sure.
The book's not even done. And that's my issue. So I'm at that stage and I don't know who to trust anymore in comics on Kickstarter because I've had a bunch of issues. And I think this is one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, can be. I mean, for the most part, anybody that has really significant problems on a regular basis, they're just going to end up weeding themselves out. There's plenty of people that I know that don't even do it anymore because they just have been chased off because they're not fulfilling. I know guys that are years behind that are on fulfillment, and that's crazy. To get a handful of months behind, I mean, even Marvel and DC get behind, but you know, years you're talking about, that's problematic. So it will weed itself out, but that doesn't help people in the short term trying to figure out, like, is this guy okay? I don't know. But, you know, oftentimes you can go back into some of their old campaigns and just like look at the comments and stuff. And you might see comments being like, yo, I got my stuff. This is great. Or you might see, yo, I am still waiting on my stuff, man, and it's been like 6 months. And that'll kind of tell you, like, okay, maybe there's a problem here. Because unless the creator, again, is on those things and he's commenting back like, hey, we got you covered, here's your whatever, your tracking or whatever. Because I mean, I've had people get pissed off at me. They're like, dude, where's my book? It's been like a year. I'm like, you didn't give me a survey, dude. I don't have your address. I've been sending this to you again and again and again. Like, I can't do anything without your address. So, or pay me for your add-ons, because you haven't paid me for your add-ons. Like, so there's people that literally just get stuck in the system and they get pissed off. But then there's just problematic creators. That does happen, and oftentimes you can kind of police that just by seeing some of their older campaigns and seeing what people are saying about it.
Again, I'm just having that issue, and it's tricky. And I try to vet as many people as I can.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I get burned either way. But
I mean, it can happen. It can happen. That is the realities of crowdfunding. A lot of people on crowdfunding aren't prepared for everything that it takes. And in some cases, you know, maybe they fund, but they only make like a couple $1,000s, and then they find out that it's not enough to do what they want to do. And then they just kind of disappear. So yeah, it is a bit of buyer beware. But you know, when you've seen guys doing it, like I've been doing Kickstarters now for like 7+ years, clearly we're taking care of our customers and getting books in their hands. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
yeah, that is true. I trust that you're going to deliver. I trust that you're going to deliver. I'm just waiting on my TikTok variants. Those things are going to be awesome.
Yes, they are. Awesome. Yes, they are.
Still waiting. Going to be.
And there's actually another one. She's already finished it. So there's another one coming July for our BD13 anthology, which will be our official 13-year celebration for Big Dog Inc. So she's got one that she's done for that as well.
And let's actually talk about that too, because this is another issue that I have with Kickstarters. Is I think you can bankrupt your customer.
Oh, sure.
If you run a campaign every month or every 3 weeks or every 6 weeks, there's going to get a point where your customer goes belly up, I think, or they could go belly up.
I don't even think that's the problem, to be honest. What I see as the big problem is campaigns that are coming out with like 20 covers, you know, and a lot of those guys know that the super backers are going to be like, yeah, man, I'm going to like super back you and, you know, buy like everything. But that's such a small percentage of buyers. Most buyers really are coming in, buying one book, and that's the end of their experience with Kickstarter. And then they come back for another one. That's the primary backer. So if you're asking your backer to or your buyer or whatever, to spend like $20 a month, that's not going to be that bad. But when you have your dudes that you know are going to come in and be like, here's $800, I'm going to buy everything from you. That can get crazy particularly when you start doing monthly or bi-monthly or whatever. You could bankrupt your super backer people, and they'll eventually be like, well, I can't keep buying everything every single month, man, because there's just too much shit here. It's one thing if you got like 4 or 5 books, that's a very easy thing to manage. But there's so many campaigns that are just coming in and just flooding their campaign with just way too much stuff. And that to me is asking too much of your customer, versus trying to just make it easy. Like if we make it pretty easy, like we rarely have more than about 10 covers. And that's if we do some add-ons during the campaign. Now that doesn't include like foils and stuff, but if people just want like the basics, like on Goth Day right now, there's one basic cover, your A cover with the logo, and then there's 6 variants. That's it. It's a really, really easy campaign to just come in and grab it all if you want. And if you happen to want it all, there's a Crossing the Veil reward where you get all the covers in one pledge. Plus, there's a bonus freebie that we're throwing in with you as well. So when we do that, we kind of try and do something a little extra special for the folks that are in fact buying it all. But again, yeah, and that's only like it's $155, and that's includes your shipping. So you're getting 9 books for $155. That's pretty simple.
Yeah, no, I just think that, it can get out of hand.
It can, yeah.
I think that, I'm a strong believer, and maybe it's my philosophy, and maybe I'm jaded. I don't know. I take the philosophy. You buy a cow and you can completely kill your cow and get all your money out of the cow by killing it and butchering it up, or you can milk your cow and you can get your money out slowly,
Yeah.
but you still have your cow and you're gonna have your cow for the next 10 years milking it, or you can kill it right now and maybe make 20%, or you can make 150% by milking it, but have for 10 years.
Hmm?
So I think that is just, and then I think it also creates a very dangerous culture where I think on the opposite side, and it's just my opinion, is that if you have 20 covers and 20 different covers, and then you lose a bunch of super backers, I mean, that could collapse a campaign in of
Mhm.
itself too, I feel.
Yep.
And it's something that if I ever run a book, 6 covers at the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I.
It's I mean it all you got it. It's you got to make decisions. And we've done campaigns where we've had a bunch of stuff, um, and we've done well with it, but we don't do that on every single campaign. That's as simple as we can make it.
And then even to go further into this outside of the money side, but I also feel that Kickstarters are supposed to be events. And maybe it's because I'm a WWE guy, I like UFC fighting, and it becomes an event. And I feel like a Kickstarter is special. When somebody launches a Kickstarter and they do it every 3 months or every 4 months, it's kind of a reason to be there. If somebody, in my opinion, is launching a Kickstarter every month, I don't know if it's a reason for me to be there because it becomes less and less special for that person. And maybe again, maybe I'm the minority here.
Yeah, you're the minority. And it's because the system that we have in the retail market doesn't work for us. Does not work for indie publishers. So if we're going to try and produce content, you know, at Big Dog Inc. we used to do 3 to 5 titles a month when we were first coming in and doing stuff. But we can't do that with Kickstarter, right? Because we can't do multiple campaigns at the same time. It's like I can't do Oz, Scheherazade, and Critter all at the same time unless I wanted to put all 3 books in one campaign, which people have done that before. So in order to move a little faster and get more content out, people have started doing a lot of people start quarterly, then they start doing like every other month. And now there's dudes that are just doing it like monthly with different titles. It's not like Critter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like Critter 1 month, and then like Penny the next month, and then like Oz the next month, and then it kind of cycles through with the quarter. But that lets you get more content out. The trick that we're talking about is just simply like you said, you're asking your customers to spend X amount a month, but across different titles. Not everybody is going to necessarily, somebody might buy Critter but they don't like Penny for Your Soul, that kind of stuff. So it's a system that is being constantly tested by tons of people. I love watching the experiments. I thought I was the only one experimenting with Kickstarter in all kinds of ways, but I found some other people doing some experiments which have been fantastic. And there's no right way to do it. I mean, we've done week-long campaigns, 3-day campaigns, 24-hour campaigns. Like we've done all kinds of crap to kind of play around and see what can really be done with Kickstarter and with different types of product. And it's really outside of the fact that you can only do one, essentially one a month or one at a time. That's really the only limitation. So if you wanted to kind of put out more books and attract a larger audience, as long as your infrastructure is such that you can be quick on your turnarounds, it's definitely working for people. Now, there's even within that context, it's definitely like I just said, right? Some people buy Critter, they don't buy Penny for Your Soul. So I'm watching people do this, and they have like 3 or 4 different books, and I'm watching one book do really well, and I'm watching another book just eat shit. and then another book will do well, and another book will eat shit. And it's because they don't and in that context, it's because they don't have the brand awareness for some of that stuff. They might have some books that are not appealing to the audience as well as some of the other ones, right? And so they're gonna feel that little pinch when they do those particular books. It's like, this one made 20,000. This one made like 8. It's like, oh wow, something didn't connect there. But it's a way to put out more product, more content, which is what comics need to do. And Kickstarter lets you do it in a great way. I understand the event part of it 100%. I don't even disagree with that context. But I also know that creatives, people are going to create, and they're going to try and push the envelope of what's possible until it's not possible anymore. And hopefully when they reach it's not possible, when they reach that level, they realize it and they're like, oh shit, okay, time to pull back and sort of refocus on what we're doing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Maybe I again am in the minority. Maybe it's just how I function. I don't know.
It's again, you're like I said, you're not incorrect. Like when we do these things, they should be events, right? Whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, we also don't want these things to be turned into like game shows, because at the end of the day, we're really just selling comic books, stories, books. I mean, whatever Kickstarter. I mean, movies and TV and music. I mean, they do everything. But in our context of comics, we're here to make a comic and sell a comic. So when we start to turn these things into The Price is Right, and it's just how many extras can we unlock, and how much money are we making, and we're shouting that into the ether. We've lost focus of what we're doing, to me, at that point. So for me, there was another guy who oh my God, what did he call it? It wasn't that he was crowdfunding. He is crowd selling, I think was the term he used, because all he really wants to do is come in, sell the book, and then produce the book and give it to them. He doesn't do stretch goals. He doesn't do anything. Literally, he doesn't do shit other than be like, here's a book. Do you guys want it? Buy it. Like, that's his whole mentality. And he's successful with it. So and I kind of sit somewhere in between, because I understand stretch goals. I also understand the fun element of the bonus merch, whether it's stickers and magnets or, poker chips or just fun merch for your brand. I get that a lot. I totally understand it. But at the same time, again, turning these things into quarterly game shows, I don't know that that's necessarily a sustainable thing.
Do you think it's damaging to the brand and distribution? And if it becomes a game show that, oh, cool, this person's got this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, and then you get an update. So we got to 170, we got to 180, we got to 190. Because while it does create encouragement, and then maybe, if I see a cool stretch goal and I'm guilty of this, I'm like, cool, maybe I'll throw another $5 in to maybe unlock it, or I'll throw in another dollar, or maybe I'll pick another book. And I've been guilty of it. But at the same time, it's tricky, right? Because there's certain things that I like that are sort of cool.
Yeah.
I think on a stretch goal level, and I'm like, do I really need this thing? But it would be cool if we unlocked it.
Well, for me, I always come at it from the cautionary side of, are we selling hype or are we selling the comic? And in today's world, hype sells. I mean, people will buy into hype, period. They'll be like, holy shit, hype, look at the hype, look at the hype. And then they'll buy in. And so we live in that sort of a hype driven world, even in comics, just in general. Like, the only way that Marvel and DC can ever like generate any sort of interest in their product is to be like, oh, look, we have another Spider-Man, or we have another first appearance of this character or whatever. And that's the only way that they can do anything. So I'm always wary of just like small hype, I want people to come to Big Dog Inc. and our books and be like, I want what this is. Like, this looks interesting. I want this book. I want this character. I like the way Tom writes. Like, I'm here for that. I'm not here for, holy crap, if we make 20,000, we're going to, like, that's fine. And we'll do that stuff. But I want people that are here for the stories, the characters, the art. That has to be your foundation at all times. And that is what I kind of focus on more than anything, is sort of appeasing that foundation. And maybe that's only like 300 or 400 people, but I'll appease that foundation with great product all the time. And in my mind, that will just slowly expand. Its grassroots. That's how we grew to begin with. 13 years ago when we started this whole thing, we didn't have CBG and Newsarama and all these places talking about us. They didn't give us the time of day, but we still grew and grew and grew and grew and grew just by grassroots, because people liked the product. They talked about it, and it just grew. So now we're in a different spot, and now we have to kind of reset the foundation and start to grow again. But it will always be based on art and story and character, and never on artificial, just momentary hype.
Oh, I'm guilty of hype. So
we all are. We all are. That's, the world is hype, man. I mean, like, everything is hype. Like, movie trailers is like, oh my God, we got to see. Like, it's all hype, right? But so many times you have the hype, and then when you get whatever the thing is, the substance isn't there. And that's where it falls off. And so I will always focus on giving my customers like an awesome book, the best I can possibly write, the best I can possibly, find as far as artists to draw it. I want them to be happy with that book at all times. And I leave money on the table all the time, because I don't do boobs, or at least I should say I rarely do boobs. It depends on the book that we do. We don't really do boobs. We don't play that game. And so I leave money on the table every single time I do a campaign. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not here to just sell boobs. I want to sell the story, the character, the art. You should be enjoying it without the boob.
Let's actually talk about that too, because there's a concept of authenticity, I feel. And I feel like, and I'm going to mention, potentially a dirty word here, Joe Rogan in a lot of ways is authentic. Patrick Bet-David, who I like, is very authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you agree or disagree, that authenticity matters.
They just are who they are. Yeah.
And sometimes, you might disagree with Rogan or Patrick Bet-David, and I use those two as good examples, but people want to be around those people, and they say, well, I disagree, but at least I can understand and I believe this person is saying what they're saying. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that's lacking collectively in the world right now, let alone in comics. Yeah. And it's something that I want to be, more authentic. And I think it's a real complicated thing where
authentic will often divide people just as easy as saying you're Republican or Democrat. Because when you're authentic, which I think that I am, and I come out and I'm like, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is garbage, guys. Like, that's my authentic opinion, but that's going to divide people immediately that are like, yo, I love this movie. And yeah, I agree with Tom. So, but at the same time, I feel like it's just a real reaction. It's my real reaction. And why shouldn't we react truthfully to whatever it is that we're experiencing or talking about or whatever? And so I rub people the wrong way often, because I just am like, I will just say it. I'll be just like, dude, this is not that great. Let me tell you why. And you're welcome to have your opposing opinion. And I love debating like movies and stuff. Like, I love doing that stuff. But people take it personally when you don't like something that they like. Then it's like then it's somehow a personal attack. Tom says Guardians isn't that good, man. I love that movie. And, Tom doesn't like me. I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with it. Like whatever you want to like. Art is subjective. But I'm allowed to say I don't like it, and you're allowed to say that you do like it. And then if you want to talk about why I like it and you don't, or whatever, then we can do that. That's called society, folks, is discussion and understanding that opinion is not personal.
Well, I just want to address the comment. I think it's two houses. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's Andrew's second house, is what he's saying.
Yes, that is my second house.
That's his summer house. He goes across the street for the summer.
That's how authentic I am. Um, I just saw that. I thought it was like the funniest thing because I'm like, then I looked at it and I'm like, oh shoot, like I could absolutely see how that looks like I think it's two houses. But anyway, I digress. I could see, but I also you said I think, and I'll just say it. People take things way too personal.
Yeah.
And look, like I have pissed off plenty of people, and you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do about it, and I try to be authentic, but it's hard.
Yeah, anytime you take something personal, particularly when we're talking about art, like there's people that loved the fact that somebody stuck a banana to a canvas with duct tape. They thought that was the greatest thing ever. Like art is subjective, but art also, because it's subjective, it lets us talk about stuff. We can talk about artists, we can talk about, directors, we can talk about actors, we can talk about concepts of things, we can talk about the execution of, how this story was, that's the fun of it all. And the instant you assume that because somebody doesn't like something, that it's some personal attack on you because you do like it, that's crazy. There was a time, this is the best. When Last Jedi came out, I was working in a comic shop with Jesse James, and guy comes in, and everybody at the shop knows Tom will help you in any way possible. If you ask for Deadpool, everybody knows Tom hates Deadpool, but he will help you find Deadpool books without any problem. As soon as you ask Tom his opinion on something, you're going to get the opinion. But otherwise, Tom will just stay quiet and help you get what you want to get. So Last Jedi had come out, guy comes in, and I don't remember what I'm doing. I'm putting some books on the table or something. And he's like, "Hey, did you see Last Jedi?" I was like, yeah. He's like, "So what did you think about that?" And I was like, "You asked, here we go." And I started to lay out why it was just so bad to me. And when I was done, he's standing there like, "Man, now I feel bad for liking that movie." And I was like, no, don't feel bad because you like it. That's not the point. But that's the fun, bit of arguing about art. It's a pointless argument because it's all interpersonal and arbitrary. So it's never personal. Just well, it was personal for me when Rian Johnson made a shitty Star Wars movie. That made it personal to me. But if you like it, that's fine.
That was the eighth one, right?
That was the eighth one. Yeah.
Oh man, all three of those just blend together in my mind. I don't even know which is which
The
anymore.
first one is legitimately fantastic. I have argued this movie over and over and over again. It is a legitimately fantastic movie. Yes, it is derivative of the first trilogy and so on, but that's also sort of what George Lucas did with his. It's like that's the point. It's supposed to be sort of cyclical and do some of similar things. A lot of people weren't with that because they were like, "Oh, I want something new." Yeah, but then what happens when we give you something new in Hollywood? You don't go see it. So what do you want me to do, guys? It's like the argument of Finn, right? Finn had the perfect hero arc in Force Awakens. Perfect hero arc. He should have just died, and it would have been a perfect hero arc for Finn. Once we got into Last Jedi and the rest, they didn't even know what to do with him. And I agree, his character was just massacred. But in the first movie, in Force Awakens, he had a perfect hero arc. He was the hero of Force Awakens, not Rey. Oh, see, I like how there was no response there. Yeah. Trust me, I've had this argument a few times.
Again. I'm not the Star Wars expert. I do like BB-8.
I am. Especially on Force Awakens, because I feel like I've seen Force Awakens more than anyone on the planet because I really enjoy it. And so every time someone's like, "Well, this," and I'm like, "No, you missed it. This is this. Look at this." And they're like, "Oh shit, yeah." There was a guy. Well, I remember when it first came out, a guy was like, "Dude, they didn't even do wipes, for like between the scenes." And I'm like, "Were you watching this movie?" Because yes, they did. There are wipes in every fucking scene, just like all the old Star Wars movies. Good Lord. It's like people want to, this is also part of the argument problem, right? Is they want to either like something too much or they want to hate something too much. And their opinion is based on what they want versus what they're actually presented with, and then we have a problem.
Hey, look, I thought 8 was rough. I thought 8 was rough. I thought 9 was better than 8, but not by much.
9 was so odd, but I loved it because I didn't love it. I liked it. I liked it because J.J. Abrams was in live time retconning out pieces of Last Jedi. He's like, nope, nope, nope. We're not doing any of that. I was like, oh my God. I never would have imagined seeing anything like this. But then he filled it up with so much bizarre nonsense, like the Sith dagger and stuff. I'm like, Jesus, what are we doing? But whatever.
Hey, look, 7 was the best out of all of them. We know that. 9 that's used. 9 was whatever. 8. I just couldn't take 8, and then me and a friendship with one of my friends ended because of 8. But it's a loss for him. Because he's stuck with episode 8. I am not. So there are consequences for picking the wrong spot. We all know.
Amazing.
We should join the dark side. We have cookies.
Amazing.
It's all right though. It's all right. We're not friends anymore, so I don't have to deal with it.
Right.
Episode 8.
Yeah.
I'll make that crystal clear. But yes. So how do you feel about Deadpool?
It's terrible. This is terrible. It's terrible.
Too easy.
It's terrible.
But we should probably get back to Goth Day.
Yeah, well, anything comics is fine. It doesn't bother me. I love going down the rabbit hole on these podcasts. Wherever it wants to go, it goes. Like I'm wearing the Jaws shirt, right? I've got my shark book coming up in 2025. So, which here's another thing. Like we talked about Critter, right? With all of the sort of the dominoes falling at the right time. So 2025 is actually the 50-year anniversary of Jaws. And I'm going to release my shark book on the 50th anniversary of Jaws, which is kind of cool.
Jaws is probably the greatest book adaptation ever into a movie.
Except that it's completely different from the book.
They took so much of the minutia in the book that worked in the book, and they did an amazing job of not putting all the stupid bullshit in that movie to make it work. No. I'll debate this and I'll argue this point where they took certain things out of the book that would have sunk that movie.
Oh yeah,
and made
absolutely.
it a disaster.
Yeah,
and that's brilliant. Understanding how to do that.
Yep.
Because they could have completely fucked it up.
Yep.
With ease.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. They made a very, very simple movie, and it's not even really a shark movie. It's a fishing movie. It's a fishing movie where they chase down a shark. Really, Jaws 2 is a shark movie because that's where the shark becomes like a slasher. He's like a dickhead shark where he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go kill all the kids now. Like that's a shark movie. But Jaws is just a shark doing what sharks do, really. Outside of when he went and ate the dude in the boat in the pond. Like that's the only time he was kind of like a dick. Like, okay, I'm just going to come in, I'm going to eat this guy, and I'm going to go out. Like that's the only time. But the rest of it is just like, hey, here's a chick in the water. It's dinner time. It's fine. I'll eat it. And then, they throw the meat in the water and he's like, yeah, I want the roast. I'm going to eat the roast, and then he eats the roast and the guys fall in the water. So he's just sort of shark guy making problems. But the movie, the crux of the movie is just the three amazing actors that brought that whole thing to life. And then of course, Steven Spielberg, who filmed it perfectly. But it wasn't, the shark movie was Jaws 2, which I still love as well. And I'm excited to get my book out. Like it's really hard for me to write some of the stuff that I'm writing now because I want to write this shark book so bad. I have so many notes and I'm so ready. It's like I'm ready with Critter, right? It's like I'm ready for Critter to happen, but I am so ready to write this fucking shark book. Like, this is so bad. But it'll be 2025. It'll be a special anniversary for us, anniversary for Jaws. And that's kind of cool. I dig that.
Yeah, see, I know what you're saying when you feel like you're ready to do something, and but like I don't have that itch yet for comics. I don't have that itch yet for comics, but when I get it, I'm gonna be just like taking off and like go crazy.
Well,
But
comics is like, it's literally, it's like all I do. It's like all I do is write comics and watch movies. Like that is all I do, guys. Well, and now I walk around the lake to not be, 350 pounds. So, but I mean, that's literally like all I do. And then even in the context of watching movies, a lot of times I'm watching a movie, not even for the movie, I'm watching it for the storytelling. Like, I'm trying to watch how these guys are telling this visual story to see how I can kind of translate some of that back. I've had a lot of people over the years tell me that my storytelling is very cinematic, and I'm like, fuck yeah, because it's supposed to be. I mean, that's sort of my model. If you look at back when I started writing in 2013 and the stuff that I did, and you kind of go along and go along and go along, you'll watch my methodology change, and how I do it, how I bring panels, how I do camera angles, how I do. Now, some of that's the artist, of course, but my writing style and my writing, I don't know, my needs for the page, and how we want to present it have changed over the years. And so now that I have guys that are like, dude, this is like really cinematic the way that you do this, I'm like, yeah, damn right. That is all on purpose, my friend.
I know the feeling of studying the game. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. And I don't even study necessarily like the masters, right? Like I'm not watching like Scorsese stuff and being like, yeah, I'm gonna drain this Scorsese, you know, balloon dry, and like anything. Like I was watching Friday the 13th movies the last few nights. And I'm just like, sometimes you can learn how to do stuff from the people that did it poorly. And be like, oh, that's, he's got a really kind of crappy movie here, but look how he did, something to kind of help spruce it up, or whatever. Or you find a way to use the poor element as like a trope, and drag it back into whatever it is you're doing. So yeah, it's just I watch movies almost now, particularly stuff I've already seen, for how they made it versus like, okay, entertain me.
It's interesting. I learn from other people's failures more
Yeah,
than
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm a right now I'm expanding a business and I'm very honest about it. And I'm going from, really, 28,000 to trying to do 60 on eBay. And it's a long journey. And what I figured out is that you look at people who've ran successful businesses and people who have failed miserably.
Hmm?
And you try to emulate the successes. And then you say, cool, why did this person fail? Because if I can figure out why somebody failed, I know what not to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
or,
absolutely.
or did they have the right intention but poor execution? And that's the other thing
Yep.
too sometimes, is that why did that go wrong? And then I also just look at the basics. And it sounds weird, but the basics of running a business, it's a very, very important thing. And I think a lot of people in comics do not understand that aspect right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just business in general. A lot of businesses go out of business just because they don't understand the business. With comics, there's a lot of stuff in comics and in entertainment in general. But you kind of have to. You have to walk this weird line of, you know, originality. Like you want to try and be original, but at the same time, if you're too original, like if you're too unconnected to something that people already know, it can be hard to kind of get them to buy in. That's why a lot of pitches are like, oh, this is like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets whatever. And then the hope is that the person that you're talking to understands what Buffy is and likes it, and they'd be like, oh, I like Buffy, so maybe I'll try this thing out. um, that's where a lot of these sort of high concept pitches come in and help you sell your book that nobody knows what the hell it is. It's funny, once I put the shark book on my table, because we had a little preview book, immediately all it is a shark fin. Like that's the entire cover, is just a shark fin coming through the water. And then the book's title is It's Only an Island If You Look at It from the Water. And people walk by the booth and they see the shark fin, and it's an immediate, what is that? Why is there a shark on your table? Oh, let me tell you about why there's a shark on my table. So you can, you can try and that's why there's tons of homages as well. In fact, I literally just had a guy message me today about the Spider-Man #1 McFarlane homage that we did 12 years ago. I don't know who this guy is. He's like, oh man, I saw this critter thing that you did. You got any more? And I'm like, I got a print, but the books are going to run you $100 if you can find one. And he's like, oh my God, I got to have one. It's just, he doesn't know what the hell critter is, but he understands the McFarlane homage, right? And that's why we have so many homages. Oh my God, it hurts my brain. But the reality is that it's such a nostalgic connection that it helps create a sale almost on site.
I agree. I get it. I get it completely. And you got to do what you got to do to survive.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's a very fair thing. But
It's complicated, right? Because what is good for the business might not necessarily be good for the industry as a whole, or it might be good to keep you afloat, but it might not be good for your overall health of your company.
Correct.
And or it could be good for your overall health of your company, and vice versa. It's extremely tricky, and I'm in this space, and there's a reason why. And there's certain companies that do really homages and cut it pretty close to the line, and it's not original, but it sells.
Yeah. I think the best sort of strategy is to do as much original content as you can from your own covers. But slip one in every now and then, and just kind of make that connection with your fan base and be like, okay, here, like for us, we do an homage maybe a couple times a year, maybe at the most. But usually it's also something sort of on the edge of stuff. Like the last one I think that we did, is it the last one? It's been a couple years. If it's the last one we did a Cannonball Run homage in 2020. Or no, sorry, when the hell did we do it? 2021. I don't know, sometime a few years ago. And it was the 40th anniversary of Cannonball Run. So we did a Cannonball Run homage. And it was interesting because a lot of people got it immediately, but we still sold it anyway to people that didn't know what it was because it was still two chicks in a Lamborghini. So conceptually, it's like, oh, there's two chicks in a Lamborghini. I'll take that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's Cannonball Run. And they're like, I don't know what that is. Just give me the chicks in the Lamborghini. So, you can do those types of things to kind of spruce up your sales a little bit, and connect to your audience a little bit through some nostalgia. But I think ultimately, you're going to be remembered for what you did of your own, more so over time than just all the homages that you do.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm just an eBay store, so I sell everything.
Well, that's the same thing. I mean, it's like eBay store, that's where the homages belong, because as somebody's scrolling through stuff and they're like, oh, that's like Cabin in the Woods,
it's instant. It's instant.
100%. Yeah.
There's a reason why I'm playing in that space. And I know that, and I'll throw it, if you have a Pokemon homage, there's somebody who's a Pokemon fan who loves Pikachu, doesn't give a shit what the book is.
Yeah.
Into comics, and they're like, gotta have it. You're asking $100. They offer me 90. The book cost me 15, and we're good to go. So
there was a guy who sent me a message one time. Well, he bought the Princesses versus Zombies. We did a Walking Dead homage because, of course, we're going to do that. But he bought it, and he sent me a message. He was like, "Yeah, man, I collect all these homages, and I've got like this database for it." And he sent me the link to the database for all the Walking Dead homages that he had. There were hundreds of them, and he was super excited to see another one. So it's like, dude, I mean, I rally against them, but the reality is that they sell. And so, again, I think the best plan is be as original as you can for your stuff, but pepper those things in, especially if you can get a deep cut. Because that, again, you're going to land in the originality realm, even though it's an homage, right? But at the same time, if you do one that everybody's, is collecting, you have the better chance to sell the thing. Like we did one with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. We did one with Phoebe Cates. We did an homage for that. Like, and as soon as people saw it, they were like, "Yo, that's amazing. That's a deep cut, man." So deep cuts can be good, but again, the more obvious stuff will also have that more sort of immediate, I get it. Give me that book.
Yeah, and we're gonna cut it back into GOTH Day because I do want to go
Sure.
through the rewards to show pictures because this is the picture part, which is the part that I like.
Okay.
So this is obviously cover A.
Yep.
And I don't know, this guy who did this probably has like a C and a B and a Z in his name.
Yeah, something like that.
But we don't have to talk about it.
CBZ, yeah, CBZ. Well, yeah, CB Zane has done GOTH Day, all 3 issues of GOTH Day. He's been with me since the beginning of this whole crazy journey. So yeah, great cover. Rookie there, Antoinette with her guillotine. Yeah, came out fantastic.
And then there's also like a black and white version or like a gray tone version of that as well.
Yep.
Yep. And then there's this one right here, which is more the variant stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Everything else is a variant. So this is of course Antoinette in her full body. She's got her guillotine. She's got the ghost head going on. That is M.R. Gunn doing that amazing piece right there.
And this is the one that I backed because I like the punk rocker element of it.
That is Joel Gomez. Everybody knows him from Coffin Comics, La Muerta. And I mean, he does stuff for Lady Death and stuff too, but he does the book La Muerta. So we got him. This is his second cover for us. And we do have him attached to do Princesses versus Zombies in November. So he'll be back for cover 3 in November.
And then this is the one that's cool too. This was the toss up for me. This one versus this one. And I obviously went with this one, but this one's pretty cool too because it's the black light, sort of rave-esque, I guess.
Yep.
Also taking a very different approach to Catnip, and it's kind
of well, this is Asher B. And when I first met Asher online, she was doing these black light things for herself. And when I saw it, I was like, son of a bitch, I want that on my covers. And so she did 3 rave covers for Penny for Your Soul. There's 3 of them that you guys can get. And then she did another one. She did a variation for Scheherazade. So there's a 4th. And then this is the 5th. When I came back, I was like, I need a Catnip cover for this thing. But I kind of want to find a way to do it a little different. And I was like, oh my God, Asher would kill this. And she did exactly that. So yeah, beautiful.
It's cool because I like it because it's different. And again, it was a toss up between those 2, and I made a choice because I got $20 and that's all I got.
We understand. That's fine. Right now, those are the top 2 selling books. Is Scarlet, the Joel Gomez, and the Catnip. Those are the top 2.
I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those 2. But you know, because they're both beautiful covers and they both hit different niches, I think.
Yep. Oh, totally different. Yeah.
There's this one right here too that it's a little more artistic.
Yep, that's our mermaid. So she was introduced in issue 2. And we brought her back for a cover here because everybody loves a mermaid, you know, until they start doing mermaid stuff and sinking your boats.
They tend to do that. Just what was it, like the Iliad?
Yeah, the sirens. Yeah,
just terrible. Just terrible. And then the amount of boats that have been lost to sea. And then I know you've become a hockey fan recently. So
yeah, there's Rookie. That is Rookie. So Rookie is from the Critterverse. She's one of Critter's buddies. She's a hockey fan. Well, she's a sports fan in general, but she kind of leans into the hockey realm. In GOTH Day, we modified her. So in normal, she wears like a hockey jersey. Here, we put her in a baseball jersey. So we kind of mixed it up a little bit. And this is Mars Foong. This is her first ever cover. So we're super happy to have Mars on board, and she's going to have a cover for the BD13 anthology as well in July. So Mars is awesome.
So you got that one, and then obviously you have this one as well.
Mary Magdalene back for the first time since 2020. That is Narciso Sousa, same artist who did the mermaid. But we've got Mary Magdalene there doing her thing. Yeah.
So that's out there. And then I think this is also available.
Yeah, so this is the first appearance of Catnip. This is the first official appearance because this is the first story. Now, her first appearance was a cover in 2020, but this is her actually first appearance, and it's the first sort of fleshing out of this goth world. This was a 60-page anthology book I did with Wendy Shaner and CB Zane. So the character in the middle is Sirenist. That's Wendy Shaner's character. And then Mighty Might is down in the bottom. So this is a 60-page book. So there's 3 20-page stories in this book. It's gigantic. But it is the first story appearance of Catnip as well.
So it's something that's very cool. And obviously, I mean, that was, I think, like a COVID virtual Kickstarter con.
Yeah. That was 2020. Yep, absolutely.
So that was interesting, and way back. That feels like it was like 10 years ago,
right? It was like less than 3 years ago, and it feels like forever.
But 90 days ago feels like an hour.
I know.
90 days ago feels like an hour. That feels like 10 years ago.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's just it's that I don't even. Oh man, I don't even know how you guys pulled that off. That entire thing.
It was fun. It was fun to do, and the book is cool. And the book is like for me, I don't know how many of those Wendy and CB have left, but we ended up with like a couple hundred extras each, and I have about 40 left, and they're gone. So that has been a very, very big seller. People like Catnip, man. Like, people like Catnip. I kind of have this sense that even though we may end Goth Day in 2025 on issue 5, I have a sense that there may be like a Catnip specific book that might follow that up, because people just love that character.
And then even to go further into all of these rewards, obviously there's foils. There's obviously a big package for all of them. I stated also that this book has a gray tone, sort of black and white combo in it. And obviously, if you want everything, it's easily obtainable, and so on and so forth. Then I think you have some add-ons as well in there.
Yeah, so if you so if you want the Goth Day stuff, you can get the Goth Day stuff. But like we said, that Critter is the Goth version of, or Catnip is the Goth version of Critter. So if you want to try out the Critter book, we have volume 1 available, to add on. You can add on Ursa Minor, Kaiju Epic, Princess versus Zombies, Joan of Arc. There's all the sort of general BDI universe stuff that you can get as add-ons as well. And then if you like art prints, we got a few art prints available too.
So basically anything you want, you can get.
Yeah, man. And if you want to go beyond what's in the Kickstarter, you just go to bigdoginc.com. That'll take you right to the web store, and whatever we have as far as back issues is available on the web store. So you can go shopping on for the old stuff.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, this thing's up in 6 days, and it's not going to be in stores either, things of that
Correct. Yeah. Everything we do, we don't go through Diamond anymore. We have no distribution to stores other than the stores that deal direct with us.
You're not in the 16% then?
We're not in any percent. We're not in any portion of a percent of anything. So if you want books, you come straight to us. You go to Kickstarter, web store, Comic-Cons. I will be in Ozstravaganza next, not this weekend, but next weekend. They invite me out to an Oz festival every year. This will be my 10th straight year that I've gone. 2 weeks after that, I'll be in Albuquerque for Duke City Comic Con. I'll be out there with Nia Rufino. And then the second weekend of July, I will be in St. Louis. I'll be in Springfield, Missouri, for Terrificon, another convention that invited me out, sort of out of the blue. I was like, yeah, let's do this. And then as we get into August, September, October, we'll be kind of all over the Midwest at cons, including the last show of the year, which will be in November, Akron Comic Con. I'll be there again with CB Zane, doing our annual show together there.
I would ask you to promote yourself, but you kind of just did.
So I'll be in Ozstravaganza in 2 weeks.
No, obviously, I mean, you're going to be on the con circuit, and then things pop up also all the time.
Yep. Yep. But most of what we're going to be doing for the most of the year is Midwest stuff. So like Michigan, Illinois, Indiana. Oh yeah, I'm going to be at I'll be in Indiana for the first time in years. Oh my God, what's the name of that con? I don't know what the hell is it called? Jesus, it's in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in
Can't help you.
October.
I don't know
I can't.
anything about this.
I don't know either, but yeah, I'll be back in Indiana. So yeah, it's mostly Midwest stuff. We're going to be really inundating ourselves in the Midwest culture here, because there are cons just all the time, and we're going to be all over it. So
And then
Monroe Pop Fest down towards Detroit, yeah. So
and then obviously, I mean, you're all over the place. You're running a bunch of Kickstarters. I think you have something in July this year. And obviously, I mean, it's not that hard for people to know what's going on. And then where can people find you on social media, all that stuff? There's a particular site I know you're on all the time.
yeah, we basically live on Facebook. You can friend me up. You're welcome to find me and friend me up. You can just do the Big Dog Inc. There's a fan page for Big Dog Inc. You can join. Twitter and Instagram, BDI Comics. We do have a Patreon page. We picked up a new patron the other day too, which is cool. Patreon page, Big Dog Inc. Patreon.com/Big Dog Inc. And we are on TikTok, but there's nothing there yet. We'll be working on some TikTok stuff later in the year, assuming it's not banned and restricted by the time we get to it. But yeah, that's the basics of our social media for now. Yeah.
And then obviously, I'm going to keep saying it. If you like content, you like creators, and you want to see that stuff get made, you need to support it and you need to back it, because without money, this stuff doesn't get made. And if you want it to get made faster, well, you need to back it faster and put more money into it. Makes a huge difference. But if it's not your cup of tea, and not every book will be, you can still follow people, you can still share it out, you could still, comment on it, like it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever else you want to like it. Because that also does help massively. And then furthermore, obviously, just, being supportive of comics in general is a big deal. And so that's super important. And then as far as I'm concerned about me, obviously I am all over social media at Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I think I have almost 500 interviews now on YouTube. So there is an interview for you on my channel. And
half of them are from me.
A good chunk of them are. Oh, without a doubt. So you can watch Tom evolve as an interviewer.
That's right.
The first one was a little rough. No.
It wouldn't surprise me. I remember when I started doing these things, man, I was like, how do you do this? I don't know what is going on. And now I just piss people off because I tell them I hate movies. Tom hates everything. Hashtag Tom. How do you do it? Like this. Hashtag Tom hates everything.
But in all seriousness, there is an interview for you on my channel. As from voice actors, cosplayers, comic writers, creators, and wrestlers. So I will be hard pressed to find something not for everybody on my channel. But if you do find it, let me know, because I'll find an interview for you if you're really that pressed. But I digress. I appreciate support when people follow me. My eBay store is up there if you're looking to buy some interesting comics, and some other stuff's out there. So I sell a lot of comics, and you never know what's in my store. So there you go, everybody. And that's pretty much everything I got. And I will let you have the final word.
Oh, that's it. I mean, I would say just a similarity, right? If you depending on what you like, we have something for everybody. We have superheroes, westerns, horror, fantasy, kaiju, historical fiction with Marie Antoinette. Oh my God, we have a gladiator book coming next year called Sand and Scales. We'll have a shark book coming out. Like, we will literally, it doesn't matter what you like. We have something that you will like in the comic book realm. So go over to bigdoginc.com, poke around the store. If you got any questions, just shoot us messages on any of the social media, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.